back, getting hit multiple times. Coming out of that bike section, more drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 8 of this season, coming to you today from the Saxon Ring. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. Well, Josh, for the second season in a row, we head off to the Saxon Ring, one of the newer tracks here on the iRacing platform, one that's rather synonymous with motorcycle racing, but this track is a super fun, super hilly, and rather technical ride, but you still got some good slipstreaming opportunities. So I have a feeling this Formula V race that we have coming up today probably going to be a rather intriguing affair, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. This place is, fairly new, I think, to a lot of the drivers. I've been around here a couple times. It's going to be very flat out in these Vs. A lot of these corners, there's a few corners around here for sure, but many of them are going to be flat out. There's a lot of counterintuitive corners around here, so you're not necessarily taking that parabolic line all the time. You're having to kind of think twice about exactly where you're going to get that line done. But I think we're going to have a pretty good race around here. There's a little bit of drafting as well to be done, so it's going to be one of those races again where getting the laps in and getting the time, getting comfortable around here, I think is really going to make a difference.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks where you do have to approach it and handle it with the hands of a surgeon. You can't just go in and whack these corners with a hammer because this track will whack you back. Currently in qualifying, about halfway through right now, Ethan Orr, your current provisional pole sitter, as it stands right now to 139.980. The only driver right now in qualifying below that 1 minute 40 bracket. Felix Mo's the first driver out of that, currently slotted to join Orr on the front row as we ride on board with Ethan heading his way down into turn number 13. This uphill final corner can keep a lot of momentum rolling, but not too much. Otherwise, you're going to end up in that gravel trap. So right now, we have got ourselves a pretty fun race to look forward to here, already halfway through this qualifying session, waiting for a few more drivers to tow back to pit lane. Mainly the sponsor of today's broadcast, Andrew Love, currently qualified in P5 as it stands right now. I can see he's up there in the interview waiting area. Don't want to drag him in as he is actively qualifying. I'm not sure about you, Josh. I mean, I did it one time for a Radical broadcast that you're actually the producer for many moons ago. It is not very easy having to talk and drive at the same time.
No, that's definitely an acquired skill that you do get after a while. I'm fairly good at it until you ask me something about math or anything I really have to think about, and then all of a sudden I'm in the wall pretty quick, especially a math question. If I have to do any sort of fuel calculation or anything like that, the time just starts peeling off of me. But yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, to talk and be live on air. You know, it actually would be the real difference there. Live on air and trying to drive a qualifying session, maybe not the best idea. So we'll probably wait, give him a little bit of time here to finish his laps. He's just out there right now here in was that the 444, I believe, was the number on the front of that one this time. Is that correct? Yes, it is.
544.
544, yep. So he's he's been doing really good this season as well. Andrew Love in all series as well, I might add, has some speed and maybe the most so in the V's. Looking about 5th place so far around the Saxon Ring today, but expecting definitely some moves out of him today as well.
Yeah, so let's see how Andrew's going to do here in this race. Looks like he's going to tow back to pit lane, drive back to pit lane, I should say, will mark an end for his qualifying session. This 13-turn road course, which has had a rather long history. The Saxon Ring been around for quite a long time, but this layout's one of the newer configurations of racetracks all across the world. 2.28 miles, so not the longest track in the world, probably on the slightly shorter end compared to some of the other tracks we visited thus far this season. But as we are now right towards the end of qualifying, with drivers completing their final laps. Again, this series has 15-minute long qualifying sessions, 4 drivers allotted to these competitors to try and get the job done. Looks like Andrew Love has gotten all of his qualifying times and everything taken care of, so I think we may drag him in for a quick little chat. Josh, would you like to have a chat with our sponsor of today's broadcast, Mr. Andrew Love?
Yeah, why not? Let's hop him in here.
All
Andrew,
right.
how's it going out there? You just had your qualifying session, just parked it in the pit. How is it out there today?
It's very nice, very beautiful. The weather's nice. It's always sunny in the Formula V's. Having a great time.
Excellent. Now, in this place, have you done some practice this week here? Is this place that you're kind of quick around? Is it a place that you're struggling with? Have you put a ton of hours in here? Do you think, maybe the final question there, do you think the rest of the competitors here is a bit of a driver's track? You know, I was saying, I think it's probably going to be the guy or lady here who puts in the most hours around this track that's going to kind of get it today. Do you think that's the case, or is it going to be a big draft machine?
Yeah, it's a monster draft machine. I was at the Friday night draft party last night, so I put in about an hour and a half here last night. I came in 3rd in that race, so I'm hoping for something good today. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that'll put in a lot of hours. I believe Felix said in his interview last week for the Tuesday night Racing Line podcast that he does a lot of hours practicing. So he's probably going to be quick, one to watch out for. Yeah, but pretty much I just did last night and then a half hour this afternoon.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good one out there. And, you know, we got to thank you for the sponsorship today and everything. We can't do these shows and put them on without you, Andrew. So thank you so much. And we invite anyone else who'd like to sponsor any one of the races. I believe there's still some FF races that are hanging loose there for the end of the season. And we can't put these things on without you guys. And we absolutely love doing it, Andrew. Love to see you guys on track ripping around. So have a good race today. Good luck out there.
All right.
And
thank you, sir.
Hopefully we'll be talking to you at the end of the race.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. See ya.
And that right there was Andrew Love, the sponsor of today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. And as Josh said, still sponsorship opportunities available for the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors that you can catch every single Sunday here exclusively on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Still going through the final stages of qualifying. About 3 minutes left. Ethan Orr, top qualifier in the overall and in the Spec 1 category, still the only racer below that 1 minute 40 bracket. Russ Telker with a rather impressive qualifying performance as it stands right now, currently slotted P3, not too terribly far off him either. So that's a very good session as it stands currently for Russ Telker. You know, actually looking through some of the historical statistics, so to speak, here, because I do have a nice little graph that I keep at the end of every single one of these seasons in terms of stats. Russ Telker was actually the Spec 2 pole sitter at the Saxon Ring for round number 4 last season here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. He actually qualified P5 in that race, so a bit of an improvement, currently slotted in third, and that's a very good starting spot for a Spec 2 field, which is really close to the front.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to see the classes kind of mixing up together for sure. And we get a lot of that at the Weekend Warriors. You can see Alan DeGassis, Jim Brewster as well, mixed into the S2 drivers, and pretty good S2 field again this season. You know, I've been noticing as well in the FF and as well as the SRF, the S2 field has been much, much better this season. You actually have people kind of racing up at the front. It's not just one S2 driver running away with every single race and then getting promoted to S1. So I'm hoping that next season we don't just get rid of all our S2 drivers is what I mean to say. We get rid of our S2 drivers, and then we're just left with that again. So hopefully we can have another season here maybe where people kind of stay put and race each other, depending on, of course, how things work out. I don't have all the details, but I must say that it seems like the class system's working out a little better these days, Ron.
I'll tell you what, the Spec 2 category has really had a renaissance over the past couple of seasons here in the Weekend Warriors world, whether it be here in the Formula V side of things, the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords have also had a nice resurgence in those classes as well. I will say one driver who we haven't really seen too much up to this point in this season is our old SMB buddy, Mr. Adam Thompson. I'll tell you what, I haven't gotten the opportunity to share the racetrack with Adam too many times. On the one occasion I did, he drove past me in a Formula V as I was coming out of the pits, and I think it was Summit Point, and as I was driving past, I just heard a meow. That was so terrifying when it happened to me. I actually got spooked into an accident, so maybe that's the reason why it's not showing up. We'll just have to wait and see. Alan DeGassis and Jason Greider finding the nice little limits. You can just see the conversation going on here between the two track marshals right there. Like, why did that guy meow on the broadcast is what they're probably talking about.
Yeah, they look like they're having some kind of a conversation. These guys just never stop talking, by the way. I've sat and watched them, and they just kind of, they're just sort of meandering there, just swaying back and forth. Don't really see them do a whole lot, but yeah, that's about all who's on track right now. Almost done this session here, just finished right now actually, so qualifying has completed. Ethan Orr taking the pole for today's race. Felix Mo's just behind him, Russell Telker just behind him, so some of the kind of usual players up there. But let's get to our grid here, Ron. We can get started.
Yeah, let's get up and rolling and ready to rock here for the 8th round of this championship. And it's got to be Ethan Orr starting this race from the front. He has grabbed the most pole positions overall this season by a quite significant margin. I mean, hey, heading into this race, he hadn't grabbed a pole since VIR, but before then, he had a streak of 5 straight pole positions. So this is pole number 6 for him here today. He starts at the front alongside the other Spec 1 pole sitter from this season of Felix Amos. It's Russ Telker starting this race from the Spec 2 pole, P3 overall. Jim Brewster, who narrowly lost out on an overall victory here a couple of seasons ago, is set to join Telker on that second row. It's going to be sponsored today's broadcast, Andrew Love, starting alongside Alan DeGassis in P6. It's Michelle Lynn in 7th, Parvin Ladar in 8th, Kurt Nunez in 9th, and Nate Coliseo rounding out your top 10.
And then 11th place, we have Joshua Justice. Martin Vassar in 12th. I believe he's a fairly new driver with us. We just kind of entered him into the system just a few moments ago, so hopefully we will see how he does today. 13th place is Luca Kraus. 14th is Dan Trzynski. 15th, Brian Hansen. 16th, Jeff Browning. 17th, Jason Greider. 18th is Wayne Buttermore, and I believe that rounds out the back of our field, Rob.
Yeah, so those are going to be your 18 starters for this race at the Saxon Ring. And we did come in a little bit late, so we didn't get too much of an opportunity to take a look at this. But I want to have a quick little gander at the championship point standings heading into this, the 8th round of this championship. Not a whole lot of racing action left to go between now and the end of this season. In Spec 1, it is looking fantastic for Felix Moes as we get towards the end of this season. 651 points is current total as it stands right now. Josh Justice slotted in second, Ethan Orr in third. Tortolo, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I don't think Tor is going to win the championship this season. I said all throughout last season, and he ended up winning it by 1 point, but he's currently slotted in fourth. Hasn't been too much of a consistent presence throughout this season as his real-life racing adventures have taken over, but he's in fourth with Nick Coliseum rounding out the top 5. Spec 2 looks like this, with Parvin Ladar at the top of a very competitive Spec 2 field. Michelle Lynn slotted in second, the series admin Michelle Lynn. Couple, I would say that's about what, 53, 49 points back there for that lead in Spec 2 as Jason Grider slotted in third. Andrew Love actually grabbed an overall win a little bit earlier on this season right there as well. Here's how it looks in Masters with series admin Jim Brewster just barely in front of Antonio Reese, who's a little bit in front of Kurt Nunez, Alan Degassis, Wayne Buttermore, Nick Tullo, Jörg Monty, Brad Cathcart, Stevie Ray, Donald Stout, and Jeff Browning rounding out your field. Browning making his first start this season in the 963 car. He will be running a little bit farther in the back no time for the start of this race. But Josh, we heard from Andrew that it may be a little bit of a draft fest here today. Final thoughts before we get this 30-minute long race up, rolling, and ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, well, I think we have a pretty, we have a pretty standard size field here. Not too big, not too small. It's kind of perfect. It's going to be about staying alive out there and making good decisions. This place is twisty. It's going to be, pretty easy to think you can get up the inside of people, and that's going to be slow. So I think today, you're going to want to make good decisions, kind of stay in a line, get away with that draft pack, and see what you can make happen here. It's going to be about not making mistakes, but we are about to get started here. Really like this place a lot, Ron. Lots of undulation. I've only been around here once or twice, but I did enjoy the time that I spent around it. Obviously not in a V quite yet, but yeah, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to the 8th round of this championship. It's going to be a familiar face. Ethan Orr right up at the front. Felix Samoas, he's also been quick, as well as the green flags that, and the drivers are on their way. The long run down into turn number 1. Let's see who's going to be able to get a move done side by side as they head their way off into the first corner. Look at Russ Tilker, very brave on the brakes. Nearly ran to the back of Ethan Orr there, but that's now a side-by-side fight between Telker and Samoas. Look at some side-by-side racing going on right behind, involving Andrew Love and Jim Brewster, but as they try and get single filed out through turn number 3. It's going to be Orr in front of Samoa's Russ Telker, the Spec 2 leader, getting off to a very dreamy start as we take a look at some side-by-side racing going on involving Parvin Ladar and Kurt Nunez off through the mid-sector.
Yeah, it looks like for the most part we're kind of single filing out here. A little bit of double file here in the back. We're going to try to sort ourselves out. Looks like he kind of gave that one up there. Probably a good idea this early in the race. Lots of time to fight still here for Parvinder. Got Joshua Justice just behind him as well. Starting to fan out a little bit here, but as Andrew was saying, I think this is a pretty heavy draft track, so man, you're going to have to do a pretty hard job, or a pretty tough job, to get pulled away from everybody else around here, especially when you're driving in a pack with so many corners.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is going to be a very fun day of racing action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Our SMB colleague, Mr. J.R. Gregory, may have jumped the gun on the USRA broadcast we have coming up later on. He joined the Discord server, gave me a panic attack because I thought it was Adam coming in to meow at me side by side between Felix Samoas and Ethan Orr. Not going to work out well for Samoas. Not working out well at all. Farther in the back, that's a spinner. That's Parvin Ladar and Martin Visser having moments. The driver of the 444 car making his series debut, joined in that off-track excursion by another Spec racer of Lador. Both of them dropping down like a stone thrown into a pond, and they're both going to pick up some black flags. Actually, no, that's Visser with a meatball flag, and Hansen picked up the same. I think he's come down pit lane as well. So big drama in the Spec 2 class rather early on as here we go. Let's see how these races are going to squabble up down into turn number 1 for the second time in this race. Samoa's dropping down like a rock, had a moment heading off through the final sector. He's now slotted in 4th. So it's Ethan Orr, the Spec 1 racer, in front of Russ Telker, the Spec 2 man, with Jim Brewster, Series Admin and Masters leader, rounding out your overall podium.
Yeah, looks like we're doing okay at the front here. Did have a bit of an incident in the back here. We're going to go have a quick peek at that now. There's a few incident reports to get to here, so this might be a 2 or 3 stager, but it looks like it did have to do with our new driver here, and is he going to spin all on his own? Not quite. And just right into the back of Parvinder Ladar there. So that was a little bit questionable. We'll have another quick peek maybe from inside the car here with him and see if we can't determine exactly what may have went wrong there. But it looks like to me he just tried to keep that rolling speed up and just plowed into the back of him.
Oh, you can actually see it was a bit of a sideways snap from Josh Justice that caught at Ladar a little bit. He tried to check up. And I gotta say, not really holding the brakes there. Unfortunately, I believe it was Brian Hansen that picked up all the drama in all of that. He picked up a meatball. Visser looks like he's pretty much out of contention in this race. Tough stuff. Heading off through turn number 12 right at the start of this race. We take a look now at the live action in this battle up at the front. It is an 8-car train chugging their way along, coming out of the final turn onto the start-finish straightaway. Ethan Orr still going to be your leader. Russ Tucker slide in P2. We got a bit of a 4-4 situation going on right now as they head their way down into turn number 1. Orr, Telker, Brewster, and Samoas all running in their nice little line, nice little train, picking up the slipstream from each other. Then the back 4 cars in all of this, DeGassis, Love, Coliseum, and Lynn. Many of these racers are Spec 2 competitors looking to battle and scrape a claw for every single spot they can. 3-1.
That was never going to work.
Contact being made. That's Luca Kraus spinning and all that. I think Jeff Browning got a piece of that drama as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a bit of a you-know-what there for sure. That was a pack of cars.
Mushroom show.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. Something like that. Yeah, that was not great right there. So that's another incident. I would like to go back and have a quick look at what happened to Brian Hansen there as well, and the incident with Parvinder. So maybe we'll try to clear that out, and then we'll go have a good look at that as well. And that was, we kind of just came in there, and it looked like some carnage had already happened, and we were right in the middle of it there. Just a ball of cars basically in the middle of the track. So we'll try to get you caught up onto exactly how that all unfolded, but see how we can see at the front here. Ethan Orr still leading the front here fairly commandingly. You definitely have Russell Telker up in second place now as well, looking around behind Ethan Orr, and you'd have Jim Brewster just hounding him in the back. We know Jim Brewster, Russell Telker are consummate racers. They're going to take those opportunities when they have them, and this is the time when you need to kind of sit there and relax a little bit. You need to relax. You're in really good position right now. This is not the time to start trying to make a pass in every corner. You want to kind of just hold your position, see if you can't hold out till the end of the race here, but we'll see how it plays out. Felix Samoas is not going to want to stay there.
Yeah, and these front racers still tracking very good lap times. The front 3 actually set their personal best lap of the race altogether, but here we go. That's Brewster with a move, trying to get a multi-move done down into turn number 1, but it's not going to work out for the race lead. He may lose out in P2 yet again to Russ Telker. Going to hold on to the inside lines. They head their way off through 2 into 3 right now. That change of direction heading off through the opening series of bends is not a Formula V's best friend. Frankly, if there's one thing that a Formula V hates more than a hill, it is a quick change of direction.
Yeah, definitely. They do feel a little sluggish from left to right, don't they? They feel heavy. Oh, and there's just not a whole lot he could have done there, was there, Ron? That's too bad. Again, didn't hold his brake, so the new driver to the series, they're probably going to get a little bit of a talking to after this one for contact and then for what happened after the contact as well. And, you know, we're pretty used to that. It does take a little bit of time to kind of get up to speed and everything. You're used to officials where it's a little bit more loose and nobody seems to care and that kind of thing. But around here, you know, we're going to care about stuff like that, and we'll make sure he gets a little bit of a, hey, you know, you're going to want to hold your brake. You're going to want to not be quite as aggressive maybe right off the bat like that. But I'm sure he'll get back in line here. Hopefully, we'll have him back next race there with a little bit better etiquette when he goes off track.
See, that's one of the fun things about the Ron's Race Night broadcast that, by the way, you can catch on Saturday nights here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, covering the officials. That plug was about as slick as 80 grit sandpaper. But with those races, you've got a situation where we're covering the officials, and sometimes the officials can get a little bit wacky. I'm pretty sure last week for the street stock race at Lanier, I am not entirely sure that my eyes were deceiving me when I saw a chicken run down the pit lane. But here we go. We got a 3-wide fight heading down into turn number 1. These racers really starting to throw haymakers at each other, cutting shapes, as he would say, Josh. Getting really dicey at the front of the field as we get more and more along into this race. I will say that we've had an order of falling anvils drop on the heads of Michelle Lynn and Nate Coliseum. They were running strong, keyword being wars. We take a look at the moment that it happened a little bit earlier on down to turn number 1. Luca Kraus being in the midst of a ping-pong situation. That was, I believe, Wayne Baltimore on the inside of him, and that was Josh Justice on the outside of him. And as a result of that, he goes around.
Yeah, unfortunately, that one looked a little messy there. I'm going to have another quick peek at that one if we can here and just see perhaps exactly what went on. We'll get back to live pictures here. So 2x2, Wayne up the inside probably a little bit. Yeah, I don't think Luca was expecting that move up the inside there. You know, in fairness, I don't think Wayne was expecting the checkup in front of him too wide quite as much as it did either. So yep, just contact and a little bit fudgely there. I did see a car off track. That was Martin coming out of the pit. So I thought maybe there was another incident there, but no, that was just Martin coming out of the pit, rejoining the race there. He did have another incident right after that, but looks like he's still out there driving around.
Oh, that's a spin for Ron DeGas heading off through turn number 12. You can tell that was a hair-raising moment based off the fact that sounded like a tornado siren. He's going to try and get back up and rolling in the right direction. And let's take a look at this replay to see what happened. Heading off through the long, seemingly never-ending turn number 12.
Weird.
Contact being made with himself and Jim Brewster, and around he goes off into the gravel trap. You can see these Formula V cars light as a feather, stopping on a dime as he went off into the gravel trap. DeGas now slotted in P8 as it stands right now. As we go back to the live action on the front very briefly, seeing Ethan Orr still holding on to the race lead. Jim Brewster, let's listen in. You can't even hear the contact. That's how minor it was. One thing I gotta say about these Formula Vs, I am not sure what sort of, like, whether it's like olive oil. I'm sure Guido would be happy about that. Olive oil, avocado oil, whatever it may be. 5W30 on the back ends of these cars. But whenever there's nose to gearbox contact, the car that's usually touching with the nose just spins around like a top.
Yeah, that's definitely what it seemed like there. You know, the thing I was looking at is it sounded like Jim Brewster was paddling the throttle coming out of there, and I don't really understand why you would paddle the throttle right there. See, he was definitely losing speed, like he was not on power, and that's sort of what caught the driver behind him out. I'm just wondering what was going on. Perhaps he was just looking down. He's trying to figure something out on his rig, or having a little moment there or something. But I believe that's what caught him out. He was coming out, I believe it was this corner here. And right about here, he just started paddling the throttle. And I'm not exactly sure why that was the case, but it definitely caught the driver behind him out.
I remember there was a lesson that my father taught me many moons ago, back in my early karting days, about lifting out of the throttle. I will not share it on the air, but he let me know that's very important for you, just to stay planted on that brake pedal, take a brave pill, and try and match that accelerator. We'll say the battling up the front has broken up a little bit, and all that drama that has been going on. We have the front three breaking away to form their own little pack. It's Ethan Orr, Russ Telker, and Felix Samoas. Telker, the Spec 2 racer, putting on a very fantastic drive, it must be said. The driver of the 260 running a very strong race as it stands right now, in the midst of a Spec 1 sandwich in those podium spots. And then you have to go back about 2 seconds to find sponsor of today's broadcast, Andrew Love, run from Series Admin, Jim Brewster, those two in Spec 2 and Masters respectively, still battling for track position. A reminder to those who haven't tuned into the series before, the Weekend Warriors world, whether it be here with the FVs or the FFs and Spec Racer folks tomorrow, these racers are scored based off their overall finishing position, not based off their class spot. So that P4 would mean exactly the same to Andrew Love as it would to Jim Brewster and their respective seasons, and the way their championships are looking at about a third of the way through this race already, as we only have had one retirement, that being Nate Colasio in the Chiquita Banana car. Not exactly sure what may have gone down there. Slipped on banana peel most definitely, but he's out this race, currently marked in P18.
Yeah, you can have a quick look at what happened to Colasio here, already backwards in that shot, and Michelle Lynn flying out of frame there at maximum velocity. Let's see exactly perhaps what happened there. So we kind of came in a bit late on that one. We got Colasio behind Andrew Love here, so this happened a little while ago, and
wow, what
cow.
The world? Oh, wow. That was huge contact with Michelle.
As crazy as that was, I just am shocked that Michelle Lynn always ends up getting caught out in these random incidents like this. So that was, again, very random. I'm going to try to jump on with Colasio here on board, and we'll see if we can't find out exactly what happened to him here. You know what, let's go back to live so I can probably line that up a little bit more correctly here. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened to Colasio there. It looks like maybe he kind of got spooked by the car in front of him and then just yanked out of the line and lost it. But let's just jump on with him here and see if we can't figure it out.
did
And that's not
genuinely look
Coliseum.
like that. Yeah, that's Felix Samas. I think while the car's a little bit farther up the road as the drama went on behind. Yeah, let's look at this from Coliseum. You can see, oh yeah, he had to jump out of the way
wow.
big time. Otherwise, it was going to be contact with Andrew Love. Right as I joked about the fact that he was at this race slipping on a banana peel. That's basically what looked like getting down into turn number 12. As soon as he pulled out, one thing that these Formula V cars love is slow movements on the steering wheel. You've got to be a smooth racer to run these cars rather well. If you are sawing at the steering wheel, slamming on the pedals, one thing this Formula V car will let you know whenever you do something like that is how much pain it can give you, because that is exactly what happens when you jerk the steering wheel like that. And let's take a look at this from Michelle Lynn's perspective. This nose cam will get a fantastic view of the intricate details of the gravel trap. Bang! Up in the air she's gonna go. That rear end of the car probably had about 4 feet of air underneath it. That was a huge hit heading down into turn number 12. But here we go, the battle up in the front. That's Felix Samoas looking to get a 2-for-1 deal down into turn number 1. Got it done on Telker, gets it done on Orr, and here comes Telker trying to fight back there. That's Samoas jumping into the race lead. Orr slotted P2. Russ Telker, though, very valiant drive for him, still in P3.
Yeah, absolutely. Russell Telker really showing his stuff today for sure up there in the S2 class, holding it all together, making some good decisions. And he's just up here with the top 3 now. If he can keep with these guys, not fight too much, you know, you might actually be able to pull away from the likes of Jim Brewster, Andrew Love, Kurt Nunez, and you know, you can pretty much skate to a fairly easy podium here if he can keep it together. So really good showing for him today. And yeah, that crash with Coliseum still kind of just bending my mind a little bit there. Was you know, talking about banana peels. I think it was Michelle Lynn who slipped on that banana peel, literally on that one. Threw it right up in the middle of the track for her. Really not a whole lot she could do, and ended up getting airborne again. But just shocking me how she gets caught in these sometimes. You know, it's definitely not her fault again there, and stuff just kind of throwing it up in front of her. She's got to get good at dodging those landmines.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened there. That would explain why she pinged up into the air. I mean, you see that moment, and you wonder how much these Formula V cars weigh. Not a lot. And that was just about proven with that moment heading down into turn number 12. Unfortunate for Coliseum and Leno, as that's a little bit of an off-track encounter there from Samoas. That's going to give Ethan Orr the perfect opportunity to draw back alongside by Sad now halfway through this race here. As we look at Russ Telker and his perspective and all of it, maybe going to send Samoas packing back to P3. He's going to back out of it. I think Russ Telker very happy about how things are going out for him right now. If he remains in this spot and doesn't throw caution to the wind, he's pretty much guaranteed a Spec 2 win. I say that knowing fully well that the commentator's Jinx Falling Anvil will strike on his head in about 5 minutes time, and I'm probably going to get a very angry message from him after the fact.
Yeah, he's definitely holding it together pretty good, though. You can see he's making good decisions there for sure. There's no point in trying to force it right now. It's going to be slow, and you have some drivers behind you, the likes of Jim Brewster and Andrew Love, who are not going to give you an easy time when they catch up to you. Jim will attack you. He's going to attack you. It doesn't matter if you're going to lose stuff in the front there. It doesn't seem like it's on his mind often about actually staying with the pack. He just wants that position, and he's going to come after you. So you have to make sure you keep those consummate racer drivers behind you, or at least at bay in some way, shape, or form. And I think Jim Brewster's actually catching up to them right now. So he's going to be in there dicing up with them pretty soon by the looks of it, if they can keep it clean back there. But that's what I'd be thinking about if I was Russell Telker right now. Just maintain.
I don't know why. Maybe it's just a lack of sleep or something like that. But whenever you said that Jim Brewster is always going to attack, it made it sound like he was some psychopath wielding a chainsaw. He's not. He's just a very nice guy behind the wheel of a Formula V car.
He is a very nice man.
He knows how to drive these cars.
He sure
He's
does.
Maybe going to eventually close up. I think if there is a little bit of squabbling up going wrong between these front three, we could see Jim Brewster bounce back into this fight. But it would definitely need a little bit of an extra push for that to take place. Let's take a look at that battle up in the front as they head their way off through the very odd turn at number 1. You can see the track falling away from you as you head your way out of that section of the circuit. Looking at Jim Brewster and Andrew Love, they've formed a nice little, albeit probably temporary, truce in their battle for 4th as it stands right now, running effectively all by their lonesome, as it's a 3.5 second gap to find Russ Telker farther up the road, and a nearly 4.5 second gap back to Kurt Nunez, rounding out the top 6 as it stands right now. I will say it's even farther back from Nunez to find Alan DeGassis, who's currently slotted in at P7. About 6 seconds, the gap between Nunez and DeGassis, those two. If they were to battle, it would be a battle for P2 and P3 in the Masters category, but I'm not sure if they will be able to close up to each other between now and the end of this race, coming up in about 12.5 minutes time. We take a look now at a battle involving Dan Szynski and Josh Justice. This is for P8 right now, and we may end up seeing this get intense. The 899 holding off the 099, at least for now.
Yeah, I think, another consummate racer there, Josh Justice. He's going to definitely look for those advantages and stuff and take them, and I think he's definitely looking for a position here at the moment. A little bit behind, expecting to see him a little bit farther up, but, the beginning of the race there was a little bit frenetic. I think maybe he got shuffled back a little now. Definitely going to be going after Dan Szynski here, though. By the looks of it, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the race these two are side by side down to the line. Josh Justice taking a little bit of real estate on him through that corner there, but all about the draft around here for sure, and biding your time, making sure that you make that move correctly. And if they're lucky, actually, they should be able to catch up to Alan DeGassis here, maybe get him as well. We jump back up towards Jim Brewster here, and Andrew Love, and it looks like they're bleeding a little bit of time, maybe catching up a little bit, actually. They might be catching up to these guys a little bit, and that's what I would be trying to do if I was them here. Just work together, see if you can't make a back up to that lead pack.
Yeah, see if we can have that work between now and the end of this race. Well, we'll say Nate Coliseo has officially called it a day. He is out of this race, now slotted in P18. Martin Visser, so out there on the racetrack, actually set his personal best lap of the race last time by at a 1:41.980. Nice to see some newcomers come into this championship and making their debut at a track that, as I said right at the top end of this broadcast, a newer track here on the iRacing platform, only brought into the service a couple of seasons ago, so you don't usually see the highest participation here. Holy cow, that could have ended in disaster. They had their way down the hill out of turn number 11. That's Brewster and Love going to give us a battle for P4 briefly. Thought they were going to end off in a cloud of dust and steam as they had their way all through there, but they decided to take it easy. That could have ended so much worse though, Josh.
That was some pretty heads-up driving there from Andrew Love. Was able to kind of get out of the way of that one. Didn't exactly see what happened, if whose fault that was, but he was able to avoid whatever that was, whether it was him kind of being in the wrong position or Jim being a little bit wide. He looks like he's probably going to have a little look here into T1. I'm not sure this would be the place to do it quite yet. He is going to hold off. It's just going to be slow to try to get through T1 here, and I would imagine he's still thinking about perhaps trying to catch the drivers in front of him. But we do have a couple incidents to go back. We got Jeff Browning here. We got Felix Samoas. Looks like he took a little off track. Maybe we'll have a quick look at what happened to Jeff here. I have 2 incident reports still. I'm not sure if they're part of the same incident here. Looks like he is all alone. He's going to have maybe a incident by himself. Ask a little too much of the rear here, maybe. Yeah, yep, just a bit out into the gravel. And was able to kind of bring her back there. So let's have a quick look at Felix Samoas with the off track here. I don't think this was very, very eventful. Leading in front of Ethan Norris was a lap or so ago, I believe. Felix Samoa is now currently in 3rd. Yeah, so that was that off track he had there, and was they were able to get by him, putting him back into 3rd place at the moment. And then one more we have here from Luca Kraus. Looks like he's kind of on his own here as well. See a little bit of an off track there. Took some curbs, some pretty aggressive curbs around here, Ron, that I don't remember. It looks like and a little too much of the rear end there as well. Going to make the rear end the front end, and he's back rolling again. Nothing too major.
Yeah, loses it heading off through turn number 3, the punching bag, as I like to call it. Unfortunate moment for him. He's also come down pit lane to serve a black flag, most likely for incidents. Ethan Orr dropping down, though, a couple of moments ago. We got a battle going on up the front of the field. Samoas and Delker really starting to duke it out at the front. We find ourselves in a situation where we could walk away from this race with our 2nd Spec 2 winner from this season. We saw it happen to Andrew Love at the race at Phillip Island, a track that, despite having some long flat out blasts, rather tight, twisty, and technical, I think we have a rather similar track like this here at the Saxon Ring today. So who knows? We could see Russ Telker walk away with a good result today. Samoas and Ethan Orr have both had off-track moments heading out of the final turn, and it doesn't matter how good of a race you put together. These cars are so momentum heavy, and with the uphill climb that you have to go through out of the turn, that is a Formula V car's version of the Himalayas. There's no question or shadow of a doubt about it. So coming out of there, if you go off into the gravel, that run up to the line is going to feel like you are standing still compared to all the other cars around you. It may only be a difference of about 5 miles an hour, but you can feel it whenever you're behind the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. And these 5 miles an hour feels like 50 miles an hour, and you're 100% right. That last pull there, if you don't get that right going up the hill in one of these things, you're just gonna bog all the way up the hill, and it would just be so painful to watch everybody fly away or by you from a little mistake like that, for sure. But Michelle Lynn getting back in the fight here in 14th. Looked like she is starting to kind of hound the back of Luca Kraus here, who also had a bit of an incident early on. So still out there racing. It's always fun to be able to find somebody to race with, and in my experience anyway, even if I get, have some bad luck or something, as long as I can get back out and do some racing, then I'm usually pretty happy with my day. So hopefully we get a little bit more racing here between these two. Up at the front, still looking kind of line astern here. Russell Telker, I think he's thinking about a win today, potentially. If I was him, I'd just be sitting there going, if it presents itself, I'll take it. If it doesn't, I'll take a third, I'll take a second. And if you think like that, I've found anyway, a lot of the time that that opportunity will present itself. You don't jump on it like a, let's see, like a fat kid on a Smartie, and and you end up not messing it up. You can kind of just keep your cool a little bit, make sure that you execute it correctly, and maybe get a win today. You never know.
Jumping at like a fat kid on a Smartie. I've never related to a simile more. I'll tell you what, that reminds me, back in 2013, my dad dressed me up as a mailman, handing out letters to the IRS to anyone whose house I went to. A full mailman regalia for the United States Postal Service. And I had one guy, oh boy, I thought I was going to see Michelle Lynn come in for a round of bowling there. I was just going to say, I had a guy offer to give me an entire bowl of Smarties so I wouldn't give him a letter from the IRS. So that's... Yeehaw. Hopefully the IRS isn't listening through this broadcast. I pay my taxes, I swear. But Felix Samos and Russ Telker running P1, P2. Ethan Orr right behind in third. We've got a battle for the podium spots of the Titans at the moment. 3 very different looking cars, 3 very different drivers. They've got their own skills. They've got their own backgrounds. Felix Samos, a venerated driver here in the Weekend Warriors world. He made his debut in the Weekend Warriors in the Spec Racer Fords back in 2020. As we take a look at that wild off-track moment for Ethan Orr, that blew it wide open for Russ Telker and Felix Samos to give us that side-by-side fight. They headed their way down the start-finish straightaway off into turn number 1, and that right there was a pretty nice maneuver there. So Samos holding on to the lead as it stands right now. Orr and Telker still there to pound. I gotta wonder what sort of strategy Telker will employ for the end of this race, Josh. I think you brought up a good point. I'm sure he's probably going to be happy with the result no matter what. Being involved in this battle as a Spec 2 racer is very, very good of a drive and a good of a day behind the wheel for Telker, but I'm sure there's a little voice in the back of his head saying, go for the win, go for the win, go for the win.
Yeah, there is, right? We're all racers here, and you're thinking, you're picturing yourself on that podium already. Could it happen? Will it happen? Can it happen? It can. It can definitely happen. You just got to play your cards right for sure. The likes of Felix Simoes and Ethan Orr, not going to be easy to get by them, but hopefully what you're hoping for right now is that they're still kind of in each other's head up at the front there, that you're able to just sort of sneak by, or they have a little incident and you're able to just sneak by. So if I was Russell Telker, I'd just be kind of sitting there waiting for something to happen at this point. Be happy with a third, be happy with a win in Spec 2, but maybe it presents itself that you're able to get one up the inside here. As long as you don't take yourself out, that's the number one thing. Do not hit things you can see is probably one of the better pieces of advice I've ever been given.
Those mental games that go on in your own head when you have the opportunity to win, seeing yourself cross that start-finish line in first, it can be a blessing and a curse at the same time whenever you're behind the wheel. It can pressure you into a mistake, but it could also be that momentum and that motivation you need to try and get the job done at the end of one of these races. Here comes Ethan Orr back down the inside, heading off into turn number 1. Samoa's gonna maybe try and back out of that. I think he's going to let those racers go by, say, you know what, I'm gonna take the powerful draft in the final 3 minutes of this race. That mental thing, though, you brought up a fantastic point there, Josh, talking about that idea in your head of crossing that start-finish line and grabbing the win and celebrating a victory. It can be a motivator. It can also be a curse. As a kid, I used to picture myself around about the age I am right now celebrating a win in Formula One. I now play the harmonica and make fart jokes on the air.
Yeah, sometimes it turns out a little different than we had planned, for sure. But, you know, you got to dream, right? You got to be out there, you got to dream. But sometimes if you get a little too lost in that dream, you can end up in the dirt, or you can end up in the back of Felix Samoes, or the likes of Ethan or what have you. So you want to make sure you're kind of staying in the game as well. I'm a daydreamer. I get out there and I daydream about winning, and I daydream about what's going to happen. And before I know it, I'm off the track. You know, so you want to make sure that you're kind of staying in the game, not dreaming too much there with the Luigi helmet on. Make sure that you can get that move done when it does present itself to you. And just kind of there's a couple little battles going on, but this is kind of the major one on the track right now, and I'm interested to see exactly how it is going to play out here. We have two, you know, people in Ethan Orr and Felix Samoes who've won multiple races multiple times. They're always kind of up at the front. They're always qualifying front, and then Russell Telker sandwiched in the middle here. And I hope he's just bringing it all in too. You're learning as much as you can off these drivers right now.
Yes, we're on the white flag here. One more lap of racing action here at the Saxon Ring, and it's 3 wide as they head their way down into turn number 1. Look at Samoas arcing it in from the high side, trying to make it work. Ethan Orr still there on his outside through turn number 2. They're gonna go, or gonna have that bump into the inside line. Ooh. He looks like he's gonna clear him. The Samoa's very brave, but that's not gonna work. He's sideways through the turn. That's not gonna work out at all. He drops down to 3rd. He's gonna be out of it. Samoas with a heartbreaking last moment mistake through turn number 3, and now there were only 2. Ethan Orr in the 22, Telker, the Spec 2 racer in the 260 car, right there to pounce. He's got the draft, he's got the assistance. I think a move down into turn number 12 or 13, maybe what the doctor orders for the mom's basement racing driver. He may be in his mom's basement, but that mom's basement may be flooded with champagne if he can get this move done. The time's running out. These racers heading their way up the hill, heading their way off through the final sector. For the final time in this race, it's Telker with the drift, with the run, heading their way through turn number 10 down the hill. It's going to feel like you pick up about 14 million miles an hour in these low-powered Formula Vs, but Telker right there to pounce. Ethan Orr, he does not have a slipstream advantage. He needs to ace these corners, and he really has him through 12. He misses the apex run a little bit wide. Telker, will he go for the move? He's looking for it down the inside to 3rd and 13, or going very deep on the brakes. Will he run off into the gravel? I don't think he will. It's got to be a run up to the line, but I think that may have just sealed it for Ethan Orr, who gets the checkered flag here in this race. Russ Telker going to finish right behind the P2. Felix Samoes go right at your podium, as that's a photo finish right at the line with Jim Brewster and Andrew Love. Practically nothing between those two racers at the end of it all. They're fantastic stuff between those two competitors. Here's a battle at the line. That's the Gases Justice and Szynski rounding out your top 9. Jason Kreider about to cross the line here in a few moments. I'm your final driver inside the top 10. Here we go. There's a fight between Luca Kraus and Michelle Lynn down to turn number 12. Michelle's gonna go. This was a spot where things went awry for her earlier on in this race, but she gets it done. But she runs off into the gravel. Kraus right there to pound side by side. They head their way down into turn number 13 at the end of this race. Kraus, the German, goes for the move, but Michelle Lynn back there to pounce. It's a photo finish at the end of this race, and you can give it to Michelle Lynn, P12. Nice at the end of it, Luca Kraus going to finish in lucky number P13. I'll tell you what, I think Ethan Orr, as much as it was definitely Telker's race to try and grab the lead and the win of there, I think he mastered that final lap perfectly. He withstood that pressure to grab, shockingly enough, I believe that's his first win this season despite having so many poles.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked like, you know, maybe he had a chance there and just wasn't quite able to get it at the end. Felix Samoes gonna have to go back here and just have a look at exactly how all of this played out here. We'll do one more quick look at this last lap, or at least a piece of it. You can see Samoes just asking a little bit too much of the grip on the car and loses it on the last lap. Very uncharacteristic of Samoes there on the last lap to throw it away, basically. But really close one here as well. I'd like to go back actually and see maybe a couple across the line here with Jim Brewster, and I believe it was Andrew Love as well. Really close one over the line.
Yeah, these two, they'd been so close throughout this race, and then come time for the end of it, they really start to squabble up. There's a move from Brewster down to turn number 12, and here comes Andrew Love fighting back on the inside. Will he go for that move into the turn? No, he doesn't go for it on entry. I think he tried to save it up for the exit, and look at that. Look at the run that Andrew Love had coming right to the line, and that is going to get him. Oh, man, that was so close between those racers right at the end of it. We'll say Andrew, according to iracing statistics, was able to get the nudge out there right at the very end of it. Sometimes our live timing and scoring software, as wonderful as it is, can occasionally lose out on a couple of thousandths of a second. I mean, that was incredibly close. It looked like Jim Brewster had it there. That was actually Andrew Love getting P4 at the end of this race, as you can see him wrecking it off, heading down into turn number 1. I am waiting to see what sort of demons exist here. You know, that actually reminds me, Brian Szynski, I see him in the YouTube chat. Stay tuned to the YouTube shorts here on the Slow Motion Broadcasting YouTube channel, because I'm pretty sure his heroics with the broken car right at the end of the race at Jerez a couple of weeks ago, probably going to end up on a YouTube short here soon. Oh, God!
Oh, he's tracking him down like a heat seeker there. Oh, yep. Oh, and another one.
Oh, boy.
Break it down at the end here. We should have a couple more here probably at the end here. We will see. Chalker just sitting there like a target. Nobody takes the bait. And we're going to rack him down. There we go. There's a couple good ones there. I do apologize for no background music today for some reason. I had a rather major update on my mixer, and it seems to have just dropped the background music. So we're just hearing engines and our voices today. We'll have that back up and running for the next show for sure. But what an awesome race, Ron. That was a really good one around here. Saxon Ring again, proving to be a pretty awesome track.
Yeah, it is a rather fun track, this. You know, that was a pretty good race overall. A fantastic battle right towards the end, and some very interesting moments. I gotta say, the what was it? The line from me earlier on. I used to dream about winning races in Formula One, and now I make fart jokes and play the harmonica on the air. So, oh, how the mighty have fallen. We're gonna get the results loaded up here in just a couple of moments' time. Let you know that at the end of this race, and for the first time this season, it's gonna be Ethan Orr grabbing the checkered flag, despite the fact that coming into this race, he has not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 pole positions in the first 8 races. Wow. He finally gets it done here at the Saxon Ring to grab that checkered flag over Russ Stelker in P2. Felix Samoas, with that mistake down to turn number 3, he rounds out your top 3. I gotta say one thing about Felix Samoas in that moment for him. Not a lot that he could have done about that moment. He had to send it off into the turn if he wanted to clear Ethan Orr, and in the process of sending it off, he ended up sending himself off the track. So he rounds out your podium still. Andrew Love, the sponsor of today's broadcast, will finish this race in 4th. And for Jim Brewster, your winner in the Masters category at the end of this race, Kurt Nunez in 6th, Alan DeGassis in 7th, Josh Justice in 8th, Dan Szynski in 9th, Jason Grider going to round out your top 10 in front of Wayne Buttermore in 11th, Michelle Lynn in P12, Luca Kraus in P13, Jeff Browning in P14, Parvin Ladar in 15th, Martin Visser in P16, Brian Hansen in 17th, with Nate Colasio the only retiree from the entirety of this race, rounding out your 18 cars classified at the very end of it. So that's how things shake out here at the end of this race, round number 8 of this season here from the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at the Saxon Ring. And with everything taken care of, I think we can look off into some interviews, looking to see who's there in the broadcast chat, because I want to have a chat with some of these racers who are probably left with a lot of things to say at the end of it all. And I think the first driver that I want to bring in is going to be our Spec 1 winner here at the end of this race, Ethan Orr, joining us here in the broadcast booth. Ethan, welcome in. Your first victory from this season. I was just talking about the fact that despite the fact that you have 6 pole positions heading into this race, this is only win number 1 for you here this season. So how was it finally getting that monkey off your back?
It's a long time coming, I think. But, you know, in the Vs, it's really hard to actually win one of these races because of the draft. You know, you really have to fight hard for them. And, you know, thankfully, Russell and Felix and I got a break, and then it was just smart racing to the end to finally pull that one out. I'm stoked about it.
I can imagine you are very pleased. I want to ask you about the final lap of that race as well. I want to get your side of it before we get Russell's side of it as well. That final lap, once you saw that spin from Felix heading down into turn at number 3, how was the mindset knowing that you wouldn't have any draft assistance on that last lap and really just had to ace the final half of it?
That's a good question. Uh, yeah, I mean, you just try not to think about it, I guess. I just went as defensive as I could, and thankfully Russell didn't get the better of me. Although he totally could have. He was quick here today.
Yeah, I gotta say that was a brilliant battle between you two at the end of the race. I was wondering whether or not there was going to be a move, a dive, and a send, but hey, you both kept it clean. And all throughout this race, it was a pretty good battle between yourself, Russ, and Felix a little bit earlier on. But switching our attention to next week's race at Magny Core, staying on a another rather intriguing track, bit more of a slipstream fest there. So, what are your thoughts heading there in 1 week?
Yeah, Magnet Core was great last season, so I think it'll be the same this season. But yeah, really a slipstream fest, and if we keep it clean and race smart like we did this week, then it'll be another one for the books, I think.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to that race in 1 week's time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for round number 9 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Man, time flies when you're having fun. It does not feel like we're already getting to the end of this season, at least from my perspective. But Ethan, well done on the win, and we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go and fully celebrate.
Yeah, thanks to all the weekend warriors for putting on the races and the admins for organizing everything. You guys for doing the broadcasts. Michelle Lynn for the setup, Stoldheim Racing, and everyone at home watching.
And thank you as well for joining us here in the broadcast booth. Ethan, well done on the victory, and looking forward to seeing you hit the racetrack at Magny Core next time out.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And that right there was Ethan Orr, our Spec 1 winner and overall race winner at the end of this race. And Josh, got some more drivers up there. Do you want to have a chat potentially with the other side of that last lap duel, our Spec 2 winner at the end of this race, Mr. Russell Telker?
Yeah, let's do it. Russell, what a race out there today. Looks like you almost had a chance at a win for sure. We were talking about you quite a bit during the broadcast, just what you might be thinking about in the car there to grab a win. Pretty, as long as you could keep it together, it was going to be a fairly easy podium today, but you were definitely out there jockeying for second and for the win as well. How'd it go out there for you today?
Man, that was fun. For whatever reason on this track, I've got some speed. And yeah, my whole goal was just to stay with Ethan the whole race. So I didn't get aggressive or try and pass or anything for the whole thing. And then, yeah, that last turn, last lap, I know there's a shot at it right there. And I went for it, but I didn't quite have the overspeed to pull it off. So.
Yeah, it looked like for a second, it looked like for a minute there you were going to have it for sure. And then, yeah, unfortunately, just the exit didn't quite have the juice that was needed, but we're able to pull in a really good victory in your class today and a second place overall. So what do you think about Sachsenring kind of meshes with you today? I mean, it's not like you're slow anywhere, but it looks like you really had the speed. You had the number today. Was that because of practice, or is this just a place that kind of just seems to work for you?
This just seems to work for me. Last season, I had a good race here for the first few laps. Anyway, I was in P3 until who was it? Andrew and I got together in turn 3.
Right.
But before that, I was running fast too. So this track, for whatever reason, just clicks with me, and I'm faster.
Excellent. Yeah, this was pretty awesome to watch today. There's some pretty good racing all around the field as well. Pretty big draft track too, but also technical in a way, I found. I mean, I've been around here in the FV, I believe, and it's drafty and stuff, but you also have to put the time in and learn the corners and get them right and stuff as well. There's a lot of kind of what do you call counterintuitive sort of thinking out there in some of the corners, so not an easy one to get down pat, and it looks like you've done a really good job today. Is there anybody you'd like to thank out there?
Oh, just like usual, this whole community is just awesome to race with. Especially all my friends at Slow Motion Racing. We were in the chat over there the whole race, and it was just awesome working with everyone.
Excellent. Yeah, it can't be said enough here that the community around here and the camaraderie and so on between everybody and being able to help out. I've been able to find so much pace since I started with the Weekend Warriors, and I'm sure it's no different for you as well, Russell.
Oh
But
yeah, absolutely.
great win in S2 today. Good driving out there. Good overall second place as well. And we'll see you next week, man.
Thank you.
And that right there was our Spec 2 winner and P2 finisher at the end of this race, Russ Telker, joining us here in the broadcast booth. And here's a rather intriguing stat for you here, Josh, talking about our reigning Masters champion and our Masters winner at the end of this race here. Jim Brewster is about to join us here on the broadcast booth in a couple of moments' time. According to the stats that I have, I may have to double check this here real quick. This is his first Masters win from the entirety of this season. Rather surprising to say that for the usual master of these Formula Vs, but we'll get an opportunity to bring Jim into the chat here. Jim, welcome in for what I believe is your first Masters win thus far this season here. How was it out there, man?
Well, thanks for reminding me. Gee, that's a depressing thought. No, I like this place. I think I had it pretty well wired. I'm trying to make up for that my Jerez mistakes that I made a couple weeks ago, because I was hoping for a win there. But as you see, the front guys got away. Andrew and I worked as hard as we could together. I don't know if you saw how hard we were working, and we were trying to tuck in and had our heads down behind the steering wheels, doing every trick we could think of, and we just couldn't make that. We were running 6.6s and they were running 0.2s, so. Those guys up front are, I can't remember exactly how they got away. I know there were a couple incidents with Alan and then the big one behind Andrew early, but anyway, I hope it was a good show. Yeah, it's a challenging track. We had a good run last night, so hopefully it was good. And next week we're going to France with another tricky technical track.
And I do have some good news about the other Friday night draft parties. Good, definitely being subjective in this case. I haven't been able to go into one of those Friday night draft parties because of some Friday night broadcasting obligations I've had throughout most of this year.
You got to stop working. That's why I'm fast. You got to stop working.
Thankfully, next week, the series that I broadcast on Friday nights, which usually follows the real life NASCAR Xfinity series schedule, they're taking a week off because Xfinity's taking a week off. So I think I have a show at 7 o'clock Eastern, and then depending on when that wraps up, I think I'm gonna pop into a Formula V and prove once again that I should be behind a microphone instead of behind the wheel.
So you mean the NASCAR Connor Zillage show?
Yeah. What's funny about all that?
I've been so excited watching him succeed. That a Miata racer can conquer the world. And he's going a cup next year. The big fast car, and I think it's really exciting to prove that Miata racing can be profitable.
How I got to know Connor Zillage, not personally, but the first time I ever heard his name said was from my buddy Robbie, who he does some pretty big wheel-to-wheel racing in the karts. At least
Yeah.
he used to. He's moved off to cars now. But he let me know back in, I think, 2022 or very early 2023 about Connor Zillage and the kind of driver that he was. How this kid's going to be big. He's going to make it to Formula One day. I'm not sure if the Formula One dream is going to happen, but hey, if he wants to make a living in NASCAR, I think he has a very good opportunity to do so. And funnily enough, for that series, there's two drivers that combined for 11 wins up to this point in the championship. So another case of dominance over there on another network. But Jim, next time out, gonna be running a Magny Core. That last season was a bit of a draft fest. Expecting the same here this season?
Pretty technical. You got that crazy chicane, and there's some other parts that are technical, but hopefully, it does have that 2-mile long straightaway, so hopefully that'll work out. And then we got Donington National, Lime Rock, and Okayama. So there's some good ones, but yeah, I'm afraid next week might be a little technical, but it's still great fun. Anyway, and unfortunately, it looks like Tam's going to be visiting during week 13, so I don't know if she'll get a chance to visit you guys in the booth or not. So maybe during week 13. But it's been great, guys. Thanks for everything you do. I look so forward to watching every one of the shows, and it's great stuff. And thanks. I'm thankful for our we see how willing our Formula V racers are to sponsor the broadcast. That we end up getting the sponsorship wrapped up first, but that's also a question as to whether people are more scared of Michelle than Stevie. So there's that question. But I forgot. Happy birthday, Stevie! Happy birthday to Stevie! Today's his birthday.
Oh, we
weren't aware that it was Stevie's birthday.
Birthday, Stevie.
According to Facebook, I don't know. You can't believe everything you see on Facebook.
Yeah, no,
Anyway.
that is certainly the case. I remember talking about my buddy Robbie. His dad's Facebook account used to have the birthday of their cat. So we will give a tentative happy birthday to Stevie. But Jim, thank you for joining us here in the broadcast booth. I'm looking
Thanks,
forward
guys.
to being out there on track for the draft party next Friday,
Good.
and I'm looking forward to seeing you out there next week at Magny Core on Saturday.
That'll be great.
Maybe I'll try to make that one too.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Talk to you guys later.
Alrighty, sounds good. That right there was your Masters class winner at the end of this race, Jim Brewster, joining us here in the broadcast booth. I kind of had a small little discussion about real life NASCAR Xfinity racing, but that's not the here nor there. We like to have a good time here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, and what a good time that we had here today, Josh. The Saxon Ring proving to be a rather fun track. This track bit funky in terms of the shape, bit funky in terms of the corners, but I think it puts on a rather pretty all right style of racing, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at that track map now, definitely a pretty funny looking track. There's no doubt about that. It's not one that's very, what would you say? There's not a lot of tracks like it on the service, but I don't not like it. It's always raced pretty well. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun around here. And it raced again really well today. And we got the scoop there on Stevie's birthday as well. We get a scoop in our show. That doesn't happen every week. So happy birthday to Stevie. And hopefully that's true. And it's not his cat's birthday or something like that. Or we haven't ripped the lid off it and he didn't want anybody to know. But either way, happy birthday, Stevie. And yeah, I believe we do have a couple shows coming up here, Ron. I'll throw up a tile or two for you this afternoon.
Oh, we've got
a big one.
Yeah, we've got a pretty big show coming up later on this afternoon. It's the Sizzling Sebring 180, the United Sim Racing Association, and their broadcast of a 3-hour-long endurance sports car race. Got GT3 and LMP2 machinery. I talked about a little bit earlier on in this show. Mr. J.R. Gregory going to be with me on the call for that, along with Weekend Warriors racer Kane Lasky going to be on the broadcast a little bit later on this evening in place for me as I go off and do my Ron's Race Night show a little bit later on this evening. That'll be a broadcast of the top split action from the I nearly said the series, the Xfinity series that we were talking about in that interview with Jim. That'll be the broadcast of the Formula C Fix series. That'll be at the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring combined configuration using the Grand Prix layout and the Nordschleife. So that is going to be super, super fun a little bit later on this evening. Of course, we've got the Weekend Warriors coming up tomorrow. The Formula Ford's going to be running at VIR, the Spec Racer Ford's running at Oran Park. And then, of course, later on this week, we've got some pretty good actions to look forward to on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Sim Racers Group going to have their latest round of the F4s. That'll be at Barber. And then the F3 series is going to be running at Road Atlanta, along with our Slow Motion Broadcasting colleague, Mr. Mike Braun. Josh, you'll be on cams for this following his action. And the 5th annual MS charity race here on iRacing will be following him and his perspective throughout all of that. A lot of good stuff to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you a good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the racing action. But as for this broadcast here for round number 8 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at the Saxon Ring, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's broadcast, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into this broadcast on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.